You can look at the video. They weren't at 400 feet. And then they just couldn't sustain flight, and that's because they were really operating on about 1 1/4 engines. If they'd had to, they could have climbed out of it for sure. All right, I was convinced about that. The Green Council writes, is there really like 40 knot loss after rotate? Because if the data says they were airborne at a max of 150 feet, 140 knots, but they took off at 180, that's a huge loss of speed in a relatively small amount of time. It's not a huge loss of speed. You can lose 40 knots like that, and especially in a situation like this, they absolutely could. Now we know that that second engine was failing. That's why they lost the 40 knots. So they're on the runway. If you go back and look at my video, you can see we isolated the compressor stall on the right side, and it's a progressive thing at compressor stall. At first, you're probably getting 100%, then 80, then 70, then 50, and as the compressor stall gets worse and worse and worse, and who knows at the point where they lost the 40 knots, how much thrust that engine was actually putting out. All we know is it was a reduced amount of thrust and not enough for them to continue to climb and stay airborne. All right, let me see. Net10 Yahoo writes, question for you, Captain. Runway length or lack of it seems to be a pain point oftentimes. Is there a reason runways couldn't be extended to alleviate these situations? Well, in theory, yeah, you could extend every runway. It still wouldn't make a lot of difference because in a normal takeoff at a normal gross weight, I can take off in plenty of time to even reject the takeoff. Extending the runway out, it might help a little bit. You'd have to tear down all those houses and factories and everything else that's off the end of every runway around the country. That's not going to happen. It would just be too expensive, and there's really not that big a need. All right, let's see. Who's next? Ken Lee, E5, writes, we have seen the video of the fire on the left wing. Is it possible that the crew had no indication that they were on fire as they accelerated down the runway? Can you even see the engines out of the wings from the cockpit windows? What would be their first indication of trouble? Well, let's take those three questions inside out. No, you can't see the engines from inside the cockpit. You also can't see the ends of the wings. They would have had tons of indications that they had a problem, so much so that they would be